What's going on, guys? Mr. Brickswag back here with another video. Today we have a very cool set that I'm very excited to review. This set has some, I guess, personal nostalgia for me, and it's something I've always wanted. It's another retired set, so real interesting there. But without further ado, we're going to review the AT-ST Raider from the Mandalorian show. If you guys have watched enough videos on this channel, you know that I'm a big Mandalorian fan. So far, I've gotten two sets from the Mandalorian show. So the first one obviously being the big UCS Razor Crest, the highlight of the show. You know, Din Djarin's ship for the first two seasons. Really awesome. Really loved that set. Then I also got the Bark Speeder Escape, which is another phenomenal Mandalorian set. Now, unfortunately, there are a couple others that I probably will never review that I'm probably interested in. So the biggest example for me is probably going to be the Imperial Light Cruiser. I just don't think I'm going to get that. It's pretty expensive. It's marked up way above what it, retailed for. It does look like a really cool set, but I just can't see myself getting that. I don't think they're ever going to make another version of it. Definitely not a UCS version of it, unfortunately. Although, one can wish, but yeah, so the Mandalorian sets have been great so far, this is going to be my third one. Maybe there's some more on the way. Wink, wink. We'll see. I haven't bought any yet, but, always thinking about it. But love the show, and so really excited to get this set. This set is featured in, I think, the third or fourth episode of the first season of The Mandalorian. So pretty early on, you get to see, Din Djarin in his very early state when he's dealing with kind of smaller issues as opposed to, larger ones, I guess. But that's what made the show feel so grounded to me. But obviously, I'm not here to do a show review, but I do absolutely love the show. But this was featured in the show, so this is the one that goes out and attacks those villagers that the Mandalorian is supposed to protect. In the scene, you have the Mandalorian, and you have Cara Dune, who is, assisting him in fighting back these raiders. And then obviously, I think you have like a couple raiders in this set as well. We'll review the minifigs when we get there. But yeah, really interesting story as to how I got this set. So I got this at my local Bricks and Minifigs. I believe the set retails for $50, and it comes with, over 500 pieces, which is pretty good. However, I got this at a discount, actually. Even though it's retired, I actually got it for lower than the retail price. I actually got this for $47 because there's box damage. And I looked at the box damage, and it's like nothing. You can't even see it up probably on camera. I see it a little bit in person. It's just a little bit damaged, and it's a $3 discount. The other one that they have is actually this one's $47. The other one that they have is $50. So, I mean, I don't know. I'll take the $3 discount for a slightly damaged box. I don't really care about collecting boxes anyway. You can see they labeled it here. I'll probably take this off at some point. But yeah, no, it looks really cool. Love the box art for this. This is a very unique model of AT-ST. Don't think they've ever made anything like this before, and they probably never will because it's a one-off. So just really excited to review this, but without further ado, I will go ahead and unbox it and show you guys the contents, so stay tuned for that. Okay guys, so taking a look at the box contents here, looks like we have 4 numbered bags. Pretty cool. We have a very extensive sticker sheet, which is not great. I don't like it, but I do understand that for this set, I guess it doesn't really make sense to do that many printed pieces, so I'll accept it. But I don't like it. I wish it wasn't the case. But, beggars can't be choosers, I guess. So they got this in here. Pretty cool. And then, yeah, so it looks like there are 4 numbered bags, and they create each section. So this one looks like it's going to be the base plus the Mandalorian. A little more of kind of the upper section plus Cara Dune. And then you're going to build the 2 legs, it looks like, in these sections, which is good. And then you're going to build just the rest. So all that plating at the upper section. So pretty methodical, pretty cool build. And you got those 2 soldiers there. So yeah, pretty sick. Really excited to get started on this. And yeah, looks like it's going to be a fun build process. So hopefully ends up all right. But yeah, I'll check in with you guys after I build the set, and then we'll do a full review. What is going on, guys? Just finished the build of the AT-ST Raider set. Build took me a little over 2 hours. I think the exact time was about 2 hours and 10 minutes. But some dilly-dallying involved in there. So I would say a nice even 2 hours is probably a pretty good estimate. And to be honest, the build process was very fun. I loved pretty much every moment of it. It was pretty fairly straightforward, I would say, for the most part. just really nice to see everything come together. Again, it was a very methodical process. I'd say the worst part was probably putting on the stickers, but none of them were like too overly large, so I didn't have too much issues. And I would say that the stickers are necessary in the set. I'll talk about that in a little bit. So I didn't really mind that too much. If I had to rate the build process overall, probably give it a solid 8 out of 10. A great build process, not perfect, but pretty great. And I did really enjoy that. So before we get into anything else, let's go ahead and take a look at the minifigure lineup. So starting over here on the left with the name characters, we're going to obviously start with Din Djarin, the Mandalorian himself. I believe this was actually the first iteration of Din Djarin, which is really interesting because in my opinion, this is the second best looking Din Djarin we've got. I've taken a look at the other Din Djarins, and aside from the UCS Razor Crest, which I definitely think is head and shoulders above the rest of the competition for obvious reasons, I would say that this version is probably the second best I've ever seen. The reason why is because I love the helmet on this guy. It's the right color. It's nice and dark, and he also has those cheekbone kind of accenting things, right? I think the helmet just looks absolutely fantastic on this. The gun looks really cool. All the printing here, lots of intricate detail. Obviously no arm printing, but you know, it's fine anyway. He has a little cape on here, which is pretty neat. So yeah, just a great figure overall. Very big fan of that. Then you have Cara Dune, which is one of the few, I think it's the only other time you could get Cara Dune aside from the Imperial Light Cruiser. So, you know, if you don't want to shell out the money for that, then this is the only way you would be able to get it otherwise. But she looks really nice. I believe she has a double-sided head, which is pretty interesting. So you can take it off and get her other head off. Let me see if I can do that. But anyway, yeah, so taking a look at just kind of the print on here, she has some printing on her legs, pretty cool. That top print is pretty cool. Back print's pretty cool. Not too crazy, I would say, but just a very accurate depiction of Cara Dune, and one that I think is definitely really, really high quality. Then we have one of the Alien Raider guys, I guess. I believe the official name for this figure is the Klatooinian Captain or something, Klatooinian Commander. Don't quote me on that. But anyway, he's the head honcho kind of guy, I guess. He's got his little helmet on. He's got this little spiky piece, which I think is really cool. Printing on here is pretty decent, you know, nothing too out of the ordinary, but pretty cool. And then he's dual wielding these guns. They didn't give him proper blasters, so he has these makeshift ones, which are not great, but that's fine, I guess. And then you have kind of the Klatooinian goon, I guess, just a normal raider soldier. So he has like a kind of a neck brace sort of thing going on, which is actually pretty cool looking, I would say. Then he has a proper gun, I guess. This is a blaster rifle with a lightsaber hilt attached at the end to represent like a kind of high caliber weapon. And he has a red bandana on the printing right there. Otherwise, he's pretty much identical as the other one. Again, the difference is that the torso print is slightly different here. And again, he has some back printing right there. But I would say the minifigure lineup for this is actually pretty strong overall. Definitely really liking it. And yeah, just for the sake of demonstration, I went ahead and took off Din Djarin's helmet. You can see, unfortunately, he does not have a face print like he does for the UCS Razor Crest, which is very unfortunate. So that's kind of useless without the actual head on, the helmet on, which is really sad, but that's okay. And then, like I said, Cara Dune has a alternative face. This is the angry one. This is the, I guess, like the more chill one. In the fight, I think it makes more sense for her to be angry, I guess. But yeah, pretty neat little detail. And now onto the actual set itself. Let's first take a look at the general aesthetic of the build. I think it looks absolutely amazing. The AT-ST is probably not one of my favorite vehicles in Star Wars. It's okay. I just think the AT-AT really overshadows it. It looks a little bit funny, you know, it has those two legs, you know, and you always wonder how it's going to be so stable even though it's so top heavy. Again, just one of those, you know, typical Star Wars vehicle problems. But this one actually looks really cool, and unlike the other ones, it's not all gray. I think this is one of the very few times where we've actually gotten an AT-ST that has some color to it. So that's really interesting. So you can see on the lower half here, you have the left leg, which is like kind of brown, you know. You got these sticker pieces, again, to add detailing, which is why I appreciate, the fact that the stickers are here. That's really interesting. And again, stickering all along here, along the side here. Looks really cool. You got kind of this ball joint thing on the back to make it look really neat. Unfortunately, there is some Technic exposed. That's just the way it's going to go with minimalist design. Unless you had an overscaled kind of design, you wouldn't be able to really hide this stuff, which is, again, unfortunate. But I wish I could have found a way to cover this up, maybe add some, studs on the other side, but you can only do so much. And on this side, it's the same kind of idea, except the color schemes are different. So the stickers on here on the feet are actually brown. I guess that's represent maybe like rust or something like that, or just maybe dirt, something like that. Gives a little more character to the ATST. And you have some red right here, which I presume is probably from paint or something like that. Again, I don't know the exact details. Maybe it's dried up blood. Who really knows? The gears on both sides are actually different colors. So this one's like a light brown. This one's like a light gray. You got some more stickering and details up here. I really like what they did with the wiring here. I'm usually not a big wiring kind of guy. I just hate putting on those pieces. But in this case, I think it was actually very well executed. Looks really, really nice, and I could definitely get behind this. I think it's really, really neat. Adds a ton of necessary detail, and yeah, it just looks really cool overall. So I am a huge fan of that. But yeah, that kind of covers the base. We can take a look at the back side over here, I guess. And there's some extra detailing here. So again, some like minor greebling here and there, a couple of these pieces. You have some more stickering here. You have some stickering on the back side. And yeah, just, a great blend of different colors overall. I just love the mix of the brown and the dark gray and the red alongside what traditionally would just be like a light gray design, which is really, really neat. So big fan of that. And yeah, so we'll take a look at the aesthetic for the, I guess, the top half now. So this is, pretty nice looking. I guess like a very standard ATST model. Unfortunately, the back has a lot of Technic exposed, which is not the best, but I can give it a pass, not too bad. And you have some stickering here to represent, I guess, like gears on that side. You have like a cannon on this side. You have a cannon in the front. You have a sticker in the front there to kind of represent, I guess that's like a logo that the Raiders painted on. And then again, you have some more stickering on this side and just some more like general plating details. So overall, like a really nice looking set. Absolutely love the aesthetic overall. And yeah, big fan of that for sure. And given that this is a play set, I think it's, worthy for us to kind of look at the play functions on this set. So the biggest function, I guess, overall comes from the ATST being able to spin its head. Now, there's two ways you can do this. The kind of, basic way is to just spin it like this. However, this means that you have to touch the side panels, you don't want to break any details off, whatever. So the easy way to do this, which is what Lego designed here, is to just spin this little gear in the back. It actually gives, I think, 180 degrees of rotation, which is pretty interesting. You would think it'd be more limited, but basically the AT can cover an entire 180 sphere, which is really interesting. Obviously, it can't see behind itself, but it can see in front of it and to the sides, which is really, really interesting. And I really like that. And this is probably, this is a really fun feature. I could play with this all day. It can spin really fast. It's very responsive. So definitely a really big fan of that. Speaking of things that can spin, you can also spin this cannon here. The one thing I don't like about this cannon is it's a little bit loosely mounted. The piece that you use to mount this is actually not on super secure, so it comes off very, very easily, just like that. I mean, you can see that it's kind of a small stud there, I guess. So you got to be really, really careful with this piece. And, putting it back on is not that challenging. I guess with one hand, maybe it is. But yeah, okay. Yeah, there it goes back on. And again, it's just, it's a little bit of a fragile piece, so be careful with it when you spin, but not too big of a deal. On the other side, you have a different type of gun. I guess, I don't know what this is supposed to represent, but maybe like a bigger high caliber blaster, whereas these are just normal caliber blasters. And this is really interesting, yeah. So just this one has a little more resistance to it, doesn't spin as freely, but can spin regardless. Pretty cool. And obviously you have the front side cannons, so you can lift these up and down and point that. So 3 different sets of guns, pretty cool. And if that wasn't enough, you actually have an additional feature which is located on the back side. And so these two actually propel some stud shooters here. You can see these two in the front right there. And so you can actually fire, like, I guess, I don't know what these are called, flick fire missiles, whatever you want to call them. But you can fire them from here. So what you do is you press, boom, boom. And you can do that 2 times. They give you an extra bolt as well. So you can actually have 3 of those, but obviously there's only 2 stud shooters on the thing. It's just so if you lose one, you can bring it back. These have pretty high recoil, so beware when you shoot them. One of them just fell across my room, so I got to pick that up later. But real neat, real neat. And yeah, so let's go ahead and take a look at the final, I guess, quote unquote feature, which is the interior. So you can open this up, and inside here you have a, I guess, like a very small interior. So you can only fit 1 minifigure here. So probably one of the Clatoonian Raiders or whatever. You have a little bit of sticker detail there. It's not really that interesting, to be honest. It's not a great interior. It's literally just for that one pilot. You have a really neat detail right here, which is a gun. So I guess if, you know, someone's trying to climb up and get the dude, and he doesn't have his gun on him, he has an extra right there. So pretty little neat detail, I guess. You know, glad they added that in. But yeah, really cool there. I believe there's also an alternative way you can open up the top without opening up the entire thing, which is via this hatch right here. You got a little printed sticker on here, pretty cool. And you know, you just kind of drop right in there, do whatever. Again, it's not super useful because, you know, it's really hard to access with just that small lid alone, whereas if you lift the entire thing, you know, you can do that. These little things right here, I guess they're the eyes of the ATST. I guess they provide visibility maybe for the pilot to look at, and you can kind of adjust them as you want. Typically, you want to leave them at an angle sort of like this, but you can, you know, fully close them or fully open them, whatever you choose to do. And speaking of positioning, there's also some positioning you can do your legs. And so this is what I recommend you have at an angle. It's at a very slight decline angle right here. And the way you adjust it is by propping this thing up. So this actually has like a little bit of a joint. And you can pop this up and make it go further. And then you would probably want to do the same with the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. You, again, just pop this up. And now you have the ATST at a slight incline angle. I would say this is pretty safe and totally valid to do. I think it's better to have it at the slight decline angle, kind of like this. I just think it's a better, you know, stability overall. But you have, you know, kind of that flexibility to change if you want to. Again, it's not like a huge feature or anything, but I do think it is pretty neat. And you know, some people would definitely want to adjust that. Again, just don't go too crazy with it, because then this thing's going to be falling over if you go too crazy, or it might be like falling backwards. So don't mess with that too much. But yeah, that's there's definitely some adjustability in that. So pretty neat play features overall. This is, I mean, a play set. I don't usually review play sets, but obviously this is meant to be one. So pretty neat. So what are my thoughts on the ATST Raider set overall? I would say pretty positive. If you guys couldn't tell, I definitely have a very favorable opinion of this set overall. I think the minifigure lineup is very, very solid. I think the set aesthetically looks pretty great. I think there's a lot of really cool play features. I think it represents the set, the scene, I guess, or the vehicle from the Mandalorian show very well. I just think it's a really, really solid play set overall. One that definitely a lot of audiences can enjoy, whether you're putting it on for display or you're playing with it, or you just want to recreate the scene from The Mandalorian. I know I got that set for that very reason. I love the show, and so if you're a big fan of the show, highly recommend getting this set. Obviously, it's retired now, so it might be a little bit harder to find. But if you can get it for a pretty fair price, I think it's totally worth it. At the retail price of $50, I think this is more than justified. Again, it's 540 pieces. The minifigs are good. The set itself is good. Definitely a pretty good set overall. I don't think it's overpriced. I think it's, you know, pretty great. Falls within reasonable expectations of what I expect from a set like this. And yeah, definitely really enjoyed it overall. If I had to give this set an overall score, I would give it a solid 8 out of 10. Just a great set. Nothing really too bad to say about it. There might be some nitpicks here and there when it comes to the aesthetic. And there may be one or two small issues with fragility, but overall very stable model, very fun model to play with. And yeah, definitely has a lot of display value as well. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I know it's a little bit different than what I usually do. I usually do slightly bigger sets, but this is a little bit of a smaller model, and I'm gonna put it right next to display, right next to my Razor Crest. So it's gonna be pretty cool looking there. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, comment below what you'd like to see next time, and if you enjoyed the video. And if you haven't already, please consider giving me a subscribe. It helps out the channel greatly, gets me a bigger following, and allows me to just show my content to more people like you. And I love doing it. So until then, stay tuned for the next video on Mr. Brickswag. Plenty of more Lego Star Wars videos to come. Peace out, guys.